Nowadays, everything is online. Your work, your favorite shows, and social media platforms. Your transactions and online banking. One can say that our presence is becoming bigger in the online world than in the real world itself. But as with any world, whether it being the real physical world or online cyber world, there are certain dangers. In the real world, the dangers are lurking everywhere around you, from thieves to natural disasters, and the same way threats exist in this world, they also exist in the cyber world. They're just different types of threats and of different formats. That is why I welcome you to this course on cybersecurity awareness. This is going to be training for anyone looking to boost their online security. Whether you are working in a corporate environment and you need to go through cybersecurity training, or if you're just looking to gain some cybersecurity awareness for your personal needs, this will do just that. And let me tell you the best part. You can pretty much finish this course in 1 or 2 days. We will go over everything important, such as the basic concepts of cybersecurity and why it is necessary. We will then go over the most common attacks out there that target regular people and companies. This means we will talk about malware and how to recognize and protect against it. We will also talk about number one attack out there, which is phishing attack, and how to recognize that one as well. But this won't be like any other cybersecurity awareness training with only boring slides. I will actually show you the entire process of these attacks in practice so you can really see how these attacks occur and so you can see the real world examples of how these attacks look like. This means we will have both theory and practice here. And after this course, you will be confident as to what you should and what you shouldn't do to stay safe online. And as always, I will be there to answer any questions that you might have about a certain topic. Anyways, let's get started by talking about some basic cybersecurity concepts in the next lecture. See you there. Alright, now before we demonstrate certain attacks and protection methods, we must first understand the basic terms in cybersecurity, its purpose, and why it is important for our day-to-day life. Let's start by understanding the core purpose of cybersecurity. We can define it with one sentence. The purpose of cybersecurity is to safeguard digital assets, including data, networks, and systems from unauthorized access, attacks, and breaches, ensuring confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now, memorize these 3 words: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Why, you might ask? Well, these 3 words create the CIA triangle concept in cybersecurity. Each letter in the CIA triangle represents a foundational principle in cybersecurity. Now, the importance of the security model speaks for itself. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability are considered the 3 most important concepts in infosecurity. Let's start off by discussing confidentiality. Now, confidentiality refers to the protection of sensitive information from unauthorized access or disclosure. Confidentiality ensures that only authorized individuals or entities can access certain data or resources. Measures such as encryption, access control, and secure communication protocols are employed in order to maintain confidentiality. On the other hand, we have integrity. Integrity ensures that data remains accurate, trustworthy, and reliable throughout its lifecycle. It involves protecting data from unauthorized modification, deleting data, or tampering with data. Techniques such as data validation, checksums, digital signatures, and access controls are used in order to maintain data integrity. And lastly, we have availability. Availability ensures that information and resources are accessible and usable when needed by the authorized users. This involves preventing disruptions or downtime caused by the cyber attacks, system failures, or other incidents. Measures such as redundancy, backups, disaster recovery plans, and robust network infrastructure are implemented to maintain availability. Those are the key components of cybersecurity. So make sure to memorize, at least in theory, what they mean. But all that is good. However, is cybersecurity really that necessary? And for what is it necessary exactly? Well, let's talk about a few reasons why you want to consider having security awareness both for personal needs and for corporate needs. Let's talk about protection of personal information. Now, for regular individuals, cyber threats such as identity theft, phishing scams, and data breaches can compromise their personal information, like for example, bank account details, their social security numbers, and other sensitive data. Without proper cybersecurity measures, individuals are at risk of financial loss and reputational damage. So imagine a scenario where a regular person falls victim to a phishing email that tricks them into revealing their login credentials for online banking. The cybercriminal gains access to their bank account and steals all their funds, causing significant financial harm. And besides just the protection of personal information, cybersecurity is important for safeguarding corporate data. In a corporate environment, protecting sensitive company data is necessary. Cyber attacks targeting businesses can lead to theft of intellectual property, financial loss, disruption of operations and services, and damage to the company's reputation. Let's say that the company's proprietary information such as product designs or customer databases could get stolen through a cyber attack. This will lead to massive financial losses and loss of competitive advantage compared to other companies that did not get breached by cyber attack. So that's why cybersecurity is also important in corporate environments. Let's also not forget that maintaining trust and reputation is very important today in online world. Both individuals and corporations rely on trust in their digital interactions. A breach of cybersecurity can erode this trust, leading to loss of customers, partners, or investors. So for example, let's say that a company that is experiencing a data breach exposes their customer information online, and this would result in customers losing faith in the company, in its ability pretty much to protect their data. This loss of trust can result in decreased sales and damage to the company's reputation. And besides this, cybersecurity is not just goodwill that everyone wants to protect your data and that everyone is so cautious about handling your personal information. It's also that there are certain compliance and legal obligations. Many industries have regulatory requirements mandating certain cybersecurity standards to protect consumer data. A failure to comply with these regulations can result in hefty fines and legal consequences for both individuals and corporations. For example, in healthcare, organizations must follow regulations like the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or also known as HIPAA, to safeguard the patient's data. A breach of this data due to inadequate cybersecurity measures could lead to severe penalties and lawsuits. And lastly, the prevention of disruption of services is another reason why cybersecurity is necessary. Cyber attacks such as a ransomware can disrupt essential services for both individuals and corporations. This can range from personal devices being locked by ransomware to entire corporate networks being paralyzed, causing all types of losses from financial to operational losses to customer loss and reputational loss. Now you might be saying that you wouldn't personally mind your devices being unavailable for a certain amount of time. But let's take a different scenario for example. Let's say a ransomware attack is targeting a hospital's computer systems, and this could result in inability to access patient records or administer treatments, potentially putting lives at risk and causing chaos within that healthcare facility. So now you get the point why cybersecurity is pretty much necessary in today's world. There are many things that can go wrong if we don't apply cybersecurity measures for both personal needs and corporate needs. So now that we covered the CIA triangle and some of the different reasons why cybersecurity is important, let us move on to the next lecture where we will discuss most common ways that people or companies get hacked. See you in the next lecture. Regular individuals can fall victim to hacking through various methods, often exploiting vulnerabilities in their digital habits or technology. Let's talk about some of the common ways that people get hacked. The first and most common one is phishing. Phishing is one of the most prevalent methods used by hackers to trick individuals into revealing sensitive information such as passwords, credit card numbers, or personal details. This often involves deceptive emails, text messages, or phone calls that appear to be from legitimate sources, prompting recipients to click on malicious links or provide confidential information. For example, a person can receive an email that appears to be from their bank, requesting them to verify their account details by clicking on a link. Unaware that it's a phishing attempt, they enter their login credentials, which are then stolen by the hacker. Now for businesses, a corporate example would be a hacker sends a convincing email to an employee posing as a colleague or executive, requesting urgent access to sensitive documents. The employee simply clicks on a malicious link in the email because they believe that the person on the other side is really their colleague or executive, and this leads to the installation of malware that compromises the company's network security. Now, besides phishing, another very common issue or another very common reason that people get hacked are weak passwords. Using weak or easily guessable passwords makes individuals vulnerable to hacking. Hackers can employ brute force attacks or utilize leaked password databases to gain unauthorized access to accounts. For example, someone uses a common password like 123456 or simply just uses a password called password for their email or social media accounts. Now, since that password is very simple, a hacker can successfully guess the password and gain access to their account, potentially compromising sensitive and personal information. Another one you will encounter pretty much everywhere are unsecured Wi-Fi networks or open Wi-Fi networks. Now, connecting to unsecured public Wi-Fi network exposes individuals to various types of risks, including eavesdropping and man-in-the-middle attacks. Hackers can intercept data transmitted over these networks and capture login credentials, financial information, or other sensitive data that you're transmitting over their network. So, let's give an example. A person uses an unsecured public Wi-Fi network at a coffee shop to access their online banking account. Now, a hacker is connected to the same network and they intercept their login credentials and gain unauthorized access to their bank account. This can happen if you connect to a malicious network that is owned by the hacker himself. And from the technical side, there is another very common thing that makes you vulnerable to specific types of attacks, and those are outdated software and security patches. Remember those annoying pop-ups on your phone or on your Windows or Mac OS that's telling you that your system is outdated or that you have certain applications that are outdated? Well, usually you just click on Remind Me Later or something like that. But failing to update software and security patches leaves your devices vulnerable to known exploits and vulnerabilities. Hackers can exploit these weaknesses to gain unauthorized access or install malware on individuals' device. And the worst thing is, these vulnerabilities don't even need your interaction in order to install malware. These are something called zero-day attacks that you did not patch. Therefore, you're left vulnerable to those attacks. And all a hacker has to do is run a piece of code on their machine and they will be able to exploit your machine without you even sitting at your desk and typing anything into your computer. All your computer needs to do is to be connected to internet and to also be vulnerable to some type of an exploit. Alright, now there are a few more things that we want to mention, and the next one is social engineering. Now, we will talk about social engineering in details, but for now, Let's mention that social engineering techniques involve manipulating individuals into divulging confidential information or performing actions that compromise security. This could include things like impersonation, pretexting, or building rapport to gain trust and extract sensitive information. For example, let's say that a hacker is posing as a tech support agent and they call a person claiming there's a problem with their computer. They convince the victim to provide remote access to their device, allowing the hacker to install malware or steal any personal information. But more about this later. Now, one more threat that is always a possibility is an insider threat. Employees or contractors with privileged access to company systems can always pose a risk if they misuse their credentials or intentionally compromise security. Let's say that there is a certain employee with administrative privileges that abuses their access in order to steal sensitive company data or disrupt operations by deleting critical files or installing malware. That's why you should always be aware of who you give access to which type of data. And you should always keep track if anything looks suspicious or if you suspect anyone of doing anything malicious on your personal data or devices. Alright, and last thing that we want to talk about, which is another method that mostly companies but also people can get hacked, is supply chain attacks. Hackers may target third-party vendors, suppliers, or service providers connected to a company's network to gain unauthorized access or compromise data. Let's say a hacker infiltrates a software vendor's network and injects malware into an update or software patch. When the company installs the infected update, it unknowingly introduces malware into its network, allowing the hackers to exfiltrate data or conduct further attacks. This can happen even if the company itself has all the security measures. Maybe you cannot access the company itself. Maybe all the security measures are blocking you. But the company will have third party that they either share the data with or work together with. And if you manage to compromise the third party, you might get access to the company itself. Alright, so these are some of the ways that people get hacked or that companies get hacked. And we will discuss in details most of these things that we discussed in this lecture. Nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. Let's talk about email phishing in this lecture. But we're not only going to be talking about it in theory. We're actually going to showcase a real-life example of how an email phishing attack could look like. Now, of course, this will be a very basic email phishing attack, but you will still get the point, and you will see how easy it is for a hacker to send an email phishing attack. Alright, so what I have right here on my screen is a Kali Linux operating system. This is an operating system that hackers use. Now, within this operating system, we have this window which is called Terminal. Terminal is used by hackers to run various different tools and commands. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to use a rather famous tool that is used by hackers, which is Setoolkit. If I type Setoolkit and type in my password, it will open this command line tool which is used for social engineering attacks. This helps me automate various different social engineering attacks. So as we can see, we can select from the menu, and me as a hacker, I will just go social engineering attacks. From here, I want to send my target a fake website. I want to send a fake email, but also that email will contain a link leading to a fake website where I will actually get their credentials. To do that, I can select the option number 2, which is website attack vectors. And from here, I can select option number 3, which is credential harvester attack method. This simply means we are going to attack their username and password. We're going to try to phish them into providing us their credentials. So let's click on 3. And here is where it gets interesting. We can clone any single page that we want. But for this particular example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to clone a Google login page. This way, we will get the victim's username or email address and their password from their Google account. To do that, I will select Web Templates and I will leave this option blank, which means that I want to use my own local IP address to receive back the information or to actually host the web page, the fake web page that we're going to be running. I will press enter and now it asks which of these three do I want to clone. These are only the options from the available website clones that we can choose from. Of course, if I selected a different option, I could have gone with cloning my own website by just providing them the link. But for this particular case, we're going to be using Google, so I'll just select 2. And it is hosting a fake web page. It says down here, Credential Harvester is running on port 80. Port 80 is an HTTP port, which means that it is hosting a website. Now, if I want to check whether it's working, I can do so by going to my own IP address, which is 10.0.2.15. And here it is. This looks exactly like a Google login page. So if I type in anything right here, let's see whether the SeToolkit works. I will type in test 123 and test 123. I click on sign in. It will redirect me back to the official Google page, as we can see right here. But if I go back to this window, it actually manages to capture the email and password that I typed in. This will work for anyone who types in username and password to the fake Google page that we have right here. You send this link to anyone, they fall for it, and their credentials will be sent straight back to you. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to close this tool by clicking exit, and we're going to use split terminal. Let's split terminal horizontally. I will enlarge this. Of course, you're not required to know any of this. This is just me showcasing a simple attack, and now we're actually going to run an email phishing attack with the combination of the fake website that we just created. Let's see how that will go. Now what I want to do is I want to run twice the SeToolkit because we're going to be running 2 different types of the attacks. Let's do one here and one here. Here is where the terminal is split, and now we have twice the program opened. With the first SeToolkit right here, we're going to go to mass mailer phishing or single mail phishing. To do so, I go to social engineering by clicking 1, then I click 5, which is mass mailer attack, and I want to select email attack single email address. We only want to attack single email address, and for this particular scenario, we're going to be using this email account. This is test 33112211. This will be our target, and we're going to be targeting it with a fake email. So let's see how that will go. Alright, let's close this, go back to our windows, and we want to use use email template, and we'll get back to this in just a second. Before we do so, I'm going to run a fake web page again by going social engineering, by going website attack vectors and credential harvester attack method. I will use web templates, I will use the same IP address of my Kali Linux virtual machine, and I will host a fake Google web page. Alright, so this is running, same as last time. We can double check it by once again visiting my own IP address. And here it is, it's hosting the fake Google web page. And now let's send that link into a fake email. We go back to this window right here. Subject of the email will be, let's say, urgent update needed. That will be the subject of the email. Send this message as HTML or plain text. We want to send it as HTML, but you can also go with plain text as well. It doesn't matter. And now we want to enter the body of the message. Let's write it like this. Hi. We just received an important security update. You will be required to confirm your identity through Google before downloading it. This simply we're telling the victim that there is an urgent security update and they need to download the update, but first they need to authenticate with their Google account. Now, this is a type of email that you would receive from someone that works in your company, like your boss, for example. They could send you an email looking like this, and they would require you to authenticate with some type of the account, which is usually Google account. So let's continue writing the message. Once you have confirmed your identity, you can download the patch from here. And now we send our link. Let's go like this. We send a link, which will be the IP address of where our fake web page is being hosted, which is my own IP address. And we send it like this. Next line, please do this ASAP, which means please do this as soon as possible. And we finish it off with best regards. And let's say that the CEO of this company, or of this imaginary company, is John Smith. And we'll type CEO. Let's type it like this. So John Smith is the imaginary CEO of that company. And he sent the victim this type of email. If the victim is not educated on phishing attacks, they might fall for it and enter their Google credentials. Alright, now it says to type end once we are done with typing the message. And now it asks us, who do we want to send this email to? We want to send to this account right here, which is test33112211. Let's say this is our victim, or this is an employee in that company where John Smith is the CEO. And we're trying to impersonate John Smith with this fake email. Alright, so let's type who do we want to send it to. test33112211@gmail.com. Alright. Let me just double check. Test33112211. That is our target email address. And now it asks how do we want to send this email. So you either need your own email account that you want to use to send this email, or you will need your own server or OpenRelay. Now I'm going to use my own email account for this example. So this will be a different email account. And this different email account is test99884499@gmail.com. This is just another fake account, but it's a different email address than this one, which I will use to target our victim, which is this email address, test33112211. Alright, I will click enter. The from name the user will see, so we're impersonating John Smith. That's why right here we will type John Smith, which is the CEO of this imaginary company. And now it asks for my email password. So I need to provide the email password for my own email account in order for it to use it to send a fake email to our target, which is this email address. So now let me type in my password. Okay, so I have copied my password. Let me paste it right here. And in Kali Linux, you won't actually see the password, but I did paste it right now. And if I click enter, it will ask me whether I want to flag this message as high priority. I will say yes. Do I want to attach a file? In this particular case, I do not want to attach the file. In a different phishing attack, the hacker might attach a malware or something else, or a PDF file which is infected. So they can also use this for different types of email phishing attacks. But in this case, I'll just select no, because we're using a fake website to phish our target. And do I want to attach an inline file? No. So let's send the email. It says Seth has finished sending the email. And in just a few seconds, right here, we will see a new email from John Smith that says urgent update needed. Let's open the email. It says, hi, we just received an important security update. You will be required to confirm your identity through Google before downloading it. Once you have confirmed your identity, you can download the patch from here, which is my own IP address hosting the fake web page, but the target does not know that. It says, please do this ASAP. Best regards, John Smith, CEO. Now, let's go to this link. And if I click on it, it will open the Google login page. So the target might think, okay, I need to authenticate over Google for me to actually be able to download this security patch. And then they will type test as username, and let's say password as password. Click on sign in. They would get redirected here and they would not know what happened. But in reality, the hacker received both email and password. It says possible username field found, email equals test, and password equals password. Then they would use these credentials to log in into the target's account. And just like that, someone can get phished into providing their credentials. Now, of course, realistically, this is not really that good of a phishing attack. This is just a basic example of it. We did get John Smith's name, which is the name of the imaginary CEO. We provided the urgency, as we suggest in the headline, urgent update needed, and we also provide a fake link where they will enter their credentials. But this can be better. For example, there are grammatical errors here. This best regards John Smith CEO should be down here. There is no image for the email account, and if you notice, here is the fake email, which if someone pays attention to, they can actually see it. Now, all of this can be changed, and this can all be faked. We just had a fake image right here. We can spoof the email address, and we can fix the grammatical errors in our fake email. Now, also when it comes to links, we can use short URLs to shorten a URL, but ideally a hacker wouldn't want to do this in a real-world attack because the URL still wouldn't look good. In real-world attacks, you want to create a custom URL that will be HTTPS. HTTPS is a secure version of HTTP, and it is much more believable when used in phishing attacks. However, this is something that you will have to pay for, because you will need to buy a domain and host your fake web page there. In a better email phishing attack, also this email, as we mentioned, would be spoofed, so it would look like a real email from John Smith's email account. Alright, but this is just a simple example that I wanted to show, so you can see how fast this attack can be recreated. It pretty much takes 1 to 2 minutes to do so, and you can send the fake email to anyone, and if they fall for it, the hacker will get their username and password. But now that we saw an example, a real-life example of this, let's go back to our presentation and see how we can recognize phishing emails and how we can protect against them. Let's go back to the presentation. Alright, so we saw a rather simple example of a phishing email. Now, let us talk in detail on how we can recognize these phishing attacks and how we can protect against them. Let's start first by defining what phishing is. We can say that phishing is a cyber attack method where individuals are deceived into providing sensitive information, such as passwords or credit card numbers, by disguising as a trustworthy entity through fraudulent emails or websites. So let's check in details how we can recognize these types of attacks. We will focus on email phishing example that we showed. In this example, there are actually two crucial points for us, which we should focus on: the email itself and the website that the email leads to. If we fail at both of these points, we will get exploited with this phishing attack. Now, this does not mean that these 2 points are of the same severity. Ideally, we want to spot the attack at the email itself, which is point 1, then to figure out it was attack at point 2, which was opening the website. The reason we want to spot it at email is because in certain attacks, email will lead to a link which can exploit you just by clicking on the link rather than providing the information. Also, the phishing email might not lead to a web page at all, but instead it might ask you to download file from the attachments, which could be a malware. This way, unless you know how to recognize a malware, you won't be able to spot the attack. Luckily, we will showcase both of these later in the course. So you will know how to recognize both malware, and you will also see why clicking on links alone can be dangerous without even inputting any personal information. But for this video, let us go back to the example that we showcased at the start of the lecture, which is phishing email that leads to a phishing website where you are required to input some type of confidential information. And let us first focus on the email itself. So, what are the things that you should pay attention to when trying to recognize a phishing email? Here are a few things. We should check for urgency or threats. Phishing emails often create a sense of urgency or fear to prompt immediate action, such as claiming your account will be closed unless you provide personal information. Now, on the screen or on this slide, we can see an example of a phishing email and a real email on the right. And now we're going to check the differences between these two. So besides urgency or threats, there is also spelling and grammatical errors. Legitimate companies typically have proofreaders. Phishing emails may contain spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, or awkward phrasing. Now, when it comes to the attachments, be cautious of unexpected attachments, especially if they prompt you to enable macros or download additional software. Also, requests for personal information. Legitimate companies won't ask you to provide sensitive information like passwords or social security numbers via email, so you should be suspicious of any email that is requesting such details. When it comes to generic greetings, phishing emails often use generic greetings like "Dear Customer" instead of addressing you by your name. Unusual sender address, so you want to check the sender's email address carefully, since phishing emails may use slight variations of legitimate addresses or unfamiliar domains. Now, usually a no-brainer is unexpected request for money. Be wary of emails requesting money transfers, especially if they claim to be from a friend or family member in distress. Now, some of the smaller things that you might notice are spoofed logos and branding. Phishing emails may replicate the logos and branding of legitimate companies, but upon close inspection they might appear slightly off or lower in quality. And lastly, trust your instincts. If something feels off about an email, trust your instincts, always. It's better to verify the legitimacy of an email through another means or source, like for example contacting the company directly, than to fall victim to a phishing scam. Alright, now let's say that we didn't manage to figure out that it is a phishing email. We have second attempt, which is to figure out that it is a phishing website. There are a few things that we should pay attention to, and these would include checking the URL. We want to look for misspelled or slightly altered URLs, as well as unusual domain extensions or subdomains. Second thing, we want to verify the SSL certificate. Ensure the website has a valid SSL certificate by looking for HTTPS and a padlock icon in the address bar. Also, examine links carefully. Hover over links before clicking to see the actual destination URL. If it differs from what is displayed or seems unrelated to the site's purpose, it could be a phishing attempt. For example, if there is a button inside a phishing email that is trying to pretend to be PayPal, and you hover over the button to reveal that the link doesn't lead to the actual PayPal website, this is a good indicator that it is a phishing attack taking place. Now, also inspect the design and content. Phishing websites often have poor design quality, including low-resolution images, grammatical errors, and inconsistent branding. If that's good, you want to also check for contact information. Legitimate websites usually provide clear contact information, including a physical address and a phone number. If this is missing or seems suspicious, it may be a phishing website. Now, of course, also be cautious of pop-up windows, since phishing sites may use pop-up windows to prompt users for sensitive information. Avoid interacting with these windows and close them immediately. And last two things is to check the website's reputation. Use online tools or search engines to see if the website has been reported as fraudulent or if others have had negative experiences with that website. And lastly, use security software. Install and regularly update your antivirus and anti-phishing software, which can help detect and block phishing attempts before they even reach you. Alright, so that would be about it. We saw a basic example of an email phishing attack that leads to a phishing website, and then we discussed what precautions you can take in order to recognize these types of the attacks in real life. In the next lecture, we're going to take a look at another type of phishing attack, which is called smishing. See you there. Hello and welcome back. In the last lecture, we took a look at the example of an email phishing attack, as well as after we showcased the email phishing attack, we also mentioned what are the steps that we can take to protect ourselves against email phishing and to recognize phishing emails. But now, let's move on to smishing. Now, smishing stands for SMS phishing. And we're going to right now take a look at the quick example of how a smishing attack would look like. So we're going to try to do the same thing as last time, but this time we're going to send a text message to a phone number that will appear to be from Google. And Google will send a fake link leading to the Google login page, which will once again capture our credentials. Let's see how that will look like. Now, to do this attack, I used something called Octopush, which allows me to send SMS messages to all phone numbers. Now, an attacker could make a list of all the phone numbers and use this tool to send multiple messages to multiple phone numbers. Now, in this particular scenario, I only send message to my own phone number and I spoofed it to look like it was coming from Google. I will post screenshots from the mobile phone in just a second so you can see how that looked like. But first of all, let me show you how I did this attack. So I used Octopush tool with a combination of sudo toolkit, which is a tool that I used in the previous lecture. Now once again, you do not need to really know these tools. This is just to showcase it. The most important part for you comes after showcasing this attack, which is how to actually protect from this type of the attack. But we still show it just for fun. So let's see. I type in my password. The sudo toolkit will start, and now I will use the Google Credential Harvester once again. To do so, I go to Social Engineering Attacks, Website Attack Vectors, which is number 2, Credential Harvester Attack Method, which is number 3, and I use Web Templates, use my own local IP address, and I use Google. Alright, now it is hosting a fake Google page, just like we did in the last lecture, on my local IP address. But here comes a problem. This is a local IP address. This can only be visited from within my own network. If I send this link to anyone outside of my network, they won't be able to open this page, which means my attack won't work. So what I need to do is I need to make a public link that will work outside of my network, that will be able to load this page once it's clicked on by anyone from anywhere in the world. And to achieve this, I'm going to use the help of a tool called ngrok. For that, I'm going to open a second terminal and I'm going to type ngrok HTTP port 80. Once again, no worries about how this tool works. This just helps me make my attack worldwide instead of it just working inside of my own network. So pretty much what it did, it forwarded my local IP address with the web page that we're hosting, which in this case is a fake Google web page, to this link, which can be accessible from anywhere in the world. If I open this from a laptop across the continent, it will still work and it will still open this web page. Just to make sure that it works, I'm going to copy this link like this, copy selection, paste it in the browser, and let's see what happens once I click on visit site. Here it is. It opens the fake Google web page. And let me just zoom in so we can see it better. Here it is. This is the link that we're given, and this is the fake web page that we're hosting. Alright, now let me lower this and go back to our toolkit. We can see here a couple of visits already to this web page, but this is just us. Now, what I would do is I would create an account on this Octopush website and send an SMS message to a phone number containing fake message with this link right here leading to this fake web page. Alright, and since I'm not recording my phone, on the top right you will see screenshots of how it looks like once it's sent with this tool to my mobile phone. This is how the message looks like, so we can see that it's coming from Google, we can see the message from the Google. It's quite realistic because it doesn't even allow us to reply to the message, and under the name or under the contact it says it's coming from Google. Same way that it would say if it was a real Google message. But once you click on the link, it leads to our own website, which you can see right here. And once you type in the username and password in that website, which we can do from our Kali Linux virtual machine, I don't need to do it from my phone, it will work the same way from whichever device I use. I can just type test123, whoops, let me go back, and once again, test123, and click on sign in, click on continue, and if I go back, once again, we get the email and the password. This is an example of an SMS phishing attack. Now, you can use Octopush tool to send this to lots and lots of phone numbers, and let's say an attacker sends to 1,000 phone numbers, at least a couple of them will fall for this. That's how phishing attacks work. Now, once again, this is just a simple example. This can be done even better But for the purposes of showcasing it to you, I picked a simple example so you can see how fast and efficient this can be done. Alright, now that we saw an example of the SMS phishing attack, let's go back to our presentation and discuss how we can protect against SMS phishing. Welcome back. We looked at the demonstration of a simple smishing attack. Of course, this can get a lot more believable if the attacker actually puts work into making these seem as real as possible. So, what did we learn from that little presentation? Well, first of all, we know that smishing is a form of phishing attack where scammers use text messages or SMS messages to deceive individuals into providing sensitive information or taking harmful actions. The purpose of smishing is typically to steal personal information such as login credentials, credit card numbers, or to trick users into downloading malware onto their devices. Let's discuss now how we can recognize smishing attacks. We have urgent or alarming messages similar to email phishing. Now, smishing messages often contain urgent or alarming language designed to prompt immediate action, such as claiming your account has been compromised or, for example, that you won a certain prize. There is also a request for personal information. Be cautious of any text message that requests personal or sensitive information, such as passwords, credit card numbers, or social security numbers. Legitimate organizations typically won't ever ask you for this type of information, especially not via text message. Now, attachments. Similarly to email, you want to avoid clicking on links or downloading attachments from text messages, especially if they claim to be from a bank, a government agency, or any other trusted organization. These links may lead to fake websites designed to steal your information or install malware on your device. Now, spoofed sender information. Scammers will often spoof the sender information to make it appear as though the message is coming from a trusted source. We saw an example of this in our small presentation, where the text message appeared to be coming from Google. However, if you were to receive this type of message in real life, don't trust the sender information at face value, but rather double check everything to make sure it's coming from the trusted source. And lastly, there is always poor grammar or spelling mistakes. Many SMS phishing attacks or messages contain grammatical errors or spelling mistakes. Legitimate organizations typically have professional communication standards, and they are less likely to have such errors in their messages. Alright, now if you receive a suspicious text message, once again, it's best to verify the legitimacy of the message by contacting the organization directly through their official website or customer service phone number. Additionally, consider reporting the message to your mobile carrier or relevant authorities to help prevent others from falling victim to similar scams. That would be about it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Wishing, which is short for voice phishing, is a type of cyber attack where scammers use phone calls to trick individuals into providing sensitive information or performing certain actions. Phishing scams often involve automated phone calls or pre-recorded messages that impersonate legitimate companies, such as banks, government agencies, or tech support services. The purpose of phishing attacks is typically to steal personal information, such as credit card numbers, passwords, or to gain access to sensitive accounts. Let's talk about different ways that we can recognize phishing. One of those ways is to figure out whether the message has been automated or pre-recorded. Phishing scams often begin with an automated or pre-recorded message that prompts you to take action, such as pressing a certain key or calling back a specific number. There can also be urgent or alarming language. As usual, scammers may use urgent or alarming language to create a sense of urgency and prompt you to act quickly, such as claiming that your account has been compromised or that you owe money to the government. Those are just some of the examples. They can also request for personal information, so be cautious of any phone call that requests personal or sensitive information, such as your social security number, credit card number, or any type of password. Legitimate organizations won't usually ask for this information over the phone. Now, also be careful. Caller ID spoofing is possible. Phishing scammers often spoof their caller ID to make it appear as though the call is coming from a trusted source, such as a bank or government agency. However, if you do receive a suspicious call, don't trust the caller ID at face value. And lastly, there can be threats or intimidation. Some phishing scams involve threats or intimidation tactics to force individuals into providing information or taking certain actions. For example, the caller may threaten legal action or claim that you will face consequences if you do not comply. If you do receive a suspicious phone call, it's best to hang up immediately and avoid providing any personal information. You can then verify the legitimacy of the call by contacting the organization directly through their official website or customer service phone number. Additionally, consider reporting the scam to relevant authorities such as the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, or your local law enforcement agency to help prevent others from falling victims to similar scams. However, there is one thing I want to mention. Nowadays, there are certain types of phishing attacks which are on the rise and are very hard to detect. These are phishing with artificial intelligence. AI can clone voices and make them almost identical to the voice of a real person. That means that you can actually make voice of someone else, such as your boss for example, say whatever you type it to say. You can see where I'm going with this. This is very dangerous, as you might one day get a phishing attack call from someone that will sound exactly like your boss, and then proceed to tell you to do something. And I will show you how an attacker can do this with a simple tool called Resemble. This will be a small cut out of the portion of the AI for Cybersecurity course that showcases this. It is very important, as these will be the attacks from the future. So let's take a look at how a simple AI tool, even today, can clone someone's voice. Let's get right into it. Welcome back. So in the last lecture, we talked about social engineering and phishing, and we mentioned some of the ways that AI can affect social engineering. One of those ways was voice cloning. So right now, let us see a practical example of that. Let's see how we can integrate artificial intelligence in order to clone my own voice and make it say whatever I want it to say. Now for this, we're going to use a tool called 11labs, which you can find at the link of 11labs.io. Now this is not a free tool, but it does offer a free trial where you can test some of its options. So before we even open it, let's mention what this tool does. 11labs uses advanced AI technology to generate high-quality spoken audio in any voice, style, or language. So let's give it a try. Let's click on the 11labs link. And here you will have an option to either sign in or sign up. Now, since I already have an account, I will go on sign in. For you, you can simply just create a new account by clicking on this button. I will log in just a second. And here it is. This is the page that it opens up after we log in. If it doesn't open this page, you can simply just click on speech synthesis and it will load this page. Alright, so we have two options here. We have text to speech and speech to speech. Now, text to speech is converting text into lifelike speech using a voice of your choice. And speech to speech is creating speech by combining the style and content of an audio file that you provide this tool with that has your own voice. So these are the two available options. Now for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to use text to speech since I'd rather just type in the text that I want my voice to pronounce. And for anyone that uses the free trial of this tool, these settings will be available for you, so you can just click on settings and you can choose whichever voice you want the text to be pronounced in. So you can, for example, choose George. Here you have the description of the voice. So if I select George, under the voice settings, we can change the stability, clarity, and style exaggeration, but I'm going to leave it on default for now. And under the models to use, I'll just go with the default one, which is this one right here. And here we can type any text that we want. So let's just type one sentence. Hello, today is a very nice day. Let's click on generate.
Hello, today is a very nice day.
and it generated this sentence in George's voice. So let's listen to it again.
Hello, today is a very nice day.
Quite cool, isn't it? We made some random voice say whatever we want. But we want to go a step further. I want to clone my own voice. I want to see how realistic will it sound. Now, unfortunately, this is not available in the free trial, but let me just show you how it looks like. So to clone my own voice, I will go on Add Voice, and if you subscribe to the 11 Labs, you will have this option to generate a new voice or to clone your own. See, right here I already tested it twice, so let's do it for the third time, just so you can see how it looks like. I click on Add Generative or Clone Voice, and here I have several options. Now, the one that I'm interested in is the instant voice cloning. This will clone my voice instantly. It only asks for several samples of my voice, and it will clone my voice, which then I will be able to use. However, there is also professional voice cloning. This takes a bit of time, so you provide it with much more samples of your voice, and you have to wait for a few weeks before they send you the replica of your voice. Now, of course, we're not going to be waiting for a few weeks, so let's just go with instant voice cloning. This one, however, will not be nearly as good as the professional voice cloning, but let's just see how it looks like. I'll click on instant voice cloning. I'll give it a name, so let's call it Alexa 3. Because I will be cloning my own voice, keep in mind that if you're cloning a voice, make sure that it's either your voice or a voice that you have permission to clone. You should not be using anyone's voice who did not give you the permission. Alright, now here I need to provide 25 samples of my voice. To do that, I'll just click on here, click on my desktop. Under the voice samples, I have 25 samples of my voice that I recorded. So I'm just going to copy all 25 of them, or select all 25 of them and click on Open. Okay, so it already uploaded all of them. We have 25 out of 25 samples ready, and we can proceed to the next option, which is labels. Now, you can set up labels by clicking on the plus sign, and labels are simply just attributes or descriptions of the voice that you're generating. For the purposes of this lecture, I'm just going to leave this empty because we just want to hear the voice as soon as possible. I already provided the samples, so it should generate a pretty accurate voice from this. Let's click on this to agree with terms of services and privacy policy, and let me click on Add Voice. This might take a minute or two to finish. And here it is. Here is Alexa 3 voice. We can use it right now. So let's go back to speech synthesis, select text to speech, and under the settings, I'm just going to select my own voice, which we just created, which is Alexa 3. I'll select it right here. I won't be changing the voice settings or the model settings. The only thing that I'm going to give it is a bigger script. So to do that, I can just lower this page, navigate to my voice samples, and here I also have text samples. I'm going to open this and copy the first text. So this would be an example of a phishing email. It would be an example of an email that requests all the employees to download a new software from the attachments which they need for their company. So let's see how this will sound in my own voice. We close this, go back to speech synthesis, and here I'm going to paste the entire script. For it to be believable, I cannot have generic greetings, so I need to just type some name. Let's say there is an employee in the company named John, and John is going to receive this message pronounced with my own voice. So let's generate it. I'll click on Generate, and as soon as it's done, it should autoplay the message. Let's wait for it to finish. Dear John, I hope this message finds you well. We have a critical situation that requires your immediate attention. As you know, maintaining the security and efficiency of our systems is of utmost importance. To that end, we have identified a vital software update that must be tested and implemented as soon as possible to safeguard our operations and data. Okay, so it sounds quite good. Now, of course, if you focus really, you can hear that it's a little bit weird. But that is just because this is instant voice cloning. If it was professional voice cloning, it would have been much better. But this is also pretty good. We just uploaded some samples of my own voice, and it managed to read this entire script, which, keep in mind, I never said any of this, and read it in my own voice. Let's listen for like 30-40 more seconds to hear how the rest of it sounds like. We need every member of our team to contribute to this effort. The success of this test depends on your active participation. Your role in this process is crucial, and your dedication to this task is highly appreciated. Here are the steps to follow. Click the link below to download the software. After downloading, please install the software on your work computer. If you face any issues during installation, reach out to our IT support immediately. You should thoroughly test the software for any anomalies, bugs, or performance issues. Be sure to report your findings promptly. Provide feedback regarding your experience, including any concerns or suggestions, by tomorrow. We understand that this request comes with a sense of urgency, but it's essential to ensure the security and efficiency of our systems. Okay, that would be about it. Let's not wait for it to read the entire script. I believe you get the point. It reads really well, even though it doesn't sound exactly the same like me, but it does do a good job of copying and cloning my voice. Now, if you want to test out this tool, you can subscribe to ElevenLabs, and you can wait for your professional voice to come in 2 to 3 weeks. Then you can use it for whichever purpose you want. Just make sure that those purposes are ethical and that you're only using the voice that you have permission to use, or that you're using simply just your own voice. Alright, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little presentation of using AI to clone someone's voice. Now let's get back to the presentation and let's discuss a couple of different phishing scenarios that could occur. First one is bank account verification. You might receive a phone call from someone claiming to be your bank's fraud department. They inform you that there has been suspicious activity on your account and that they need to verify some information to secure your account. They may ask for your full name, account number, PIN, or even your online banking password. The caller may sound urgent and may try to pressure you into providing the information quickly. Another possible scenario is tech support scam. You might receive a call from someone claiming to be from a reputable tech company like Microsoft or Apple. They inform you that your computer has been infected with a virus or that there is a security issue with your account. They might offer to help you fix the problem but require remote access to your computer. Once they have access, they may install malware or steal personal information from your device. Third possible scenario is government agency threat. You can receive a call from someone claiming to be from a government agency such as the IRS or the Social Security Administration. They inform you that there is a problem with your taxes or your social security benefits, and they can threaten to take legal actions if you don't comply. They may request personal information such as your social security number, bank account details, or even demand immediate payment to resolve the supposed issue. Never fall for these types of the attacks. And last example that we will show is fake CEO fraud. We already talked about this before, and we also saw how a scammer could use AI voice cloning technology to create a synthetic voice that sounds remarkably similar to the CEO or another high-ranking executive of a company. The scammer then calls an employee in the finance department claiming to be the CEO and instructs them to urgently transfer a large sum of money to a specified account for a supposed business deal or emergency situation. Because the voice sounds authentic and the request appears to come from a trusted authority figure, the employee may comply without questioning it, leading to a significant financial loss for the company. Alright, so that would be about it when it comes to phishing. We mentioned different features that a phishing attack might have. We also saw an example of how the future phishing attacks will look like by cloning the voice with an AI tool, and then we proceeded to talk about different scenarios or different possible scenarios which you might encounter if you end up in a phishing attack. That would be about it for this lecture, and in the next one, we're going to focus on online privacy. Welcome back. Let us briefly talk about privacy. But we are not going to mention the type of privacy that you might think about. We won't talk about VPNs, proxies, and all of that technical stuff. VPNs are something you probably use within your company, and you were given guidelines on how to properly use it, so that is pretty much out of the aspect of this course. But what we want to mention is the privacy in a sense where you don't accidentally leak important private data or information to the public. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you need to be careful which information you tell someone or post on social media. Many things which you might consider normal can be used against you or the company, or even be used to breach some of the security measures that your company has. Let me give you a few examples. First one, identity theft. When personal information such as full name, date of birth, address, and social security number is leaked online, malicious actors can use this information to impersonate individuals and commit identity theft. They may open fraudulent accounts, make unauthorized purchases, or engage in other criminal activities, causing financial and reputational harm to the victim. Another possibility is surveillance and tracking. Online platforms and advertisers often track users' browsing habits, search history, and interactions to gather personal data for targeted advertising and profiling purposes. When individuals unknowingly share too much personal information online, they may become vulnerable to invasive surveillance, manipulation, and exploitation of their privacy rights. And when it comes to your company, there are always employment and reputation risks. Sharing confidential information or engaging in inappropriate behavior on social media platforms can have serious consequences for individuals' employment and professional reputations. Employers may conduct online background checks or monitor employees' social media activities, and inappropriate posts or leaked confidential data could lead to disciplinary action, termination, or damage to one's career prospects. So what you post online can also reflect onto your job or your business. And one of the most common ones is cyberstalking and harassment. Revealing sensitive personal information or location data online can make individuals targets for cyberstalking, harassment, or even physical harm. Malicious actors may use social media platforms, messaging apps, or other online channels to harass, intimidate, or threaten individuals, posing a significant risk to their safety and well-being. Now, these would be just some of the scenarios as to why you should be careful what you post online on the internet. To mitigate these types of risks and protect your online privacy, individuals should be mindful of all the information that they share. They should also regularly review privacy settings and permissions on social media platforms and other online accounts. And additionally, organizations should implement robust data protection measures, security controls, and privacy policies to safeguard both customer and employee data and comply with relevant regulations. If you practice online privacy techniques, you can better protect yourself from leaking confidential data online and therefore not falling a victim to these type of threats that we discussed in this lecture. Alright, nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lecture. Alright, by now we have covered various different social engineering and phishing methods, and now we're going to take a look at simple ways on how to get everyone at the company more aware of these attacks and to be prepared against them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a couple of questions, and then we will mention some advice on how to successfully conduct a training. So let's start with questions first. Here's the question number 1. How can individuals identify phishing emails? Now, I will give you around 5 seconds to think about it. And let's reveal the answer individuals can identify phishing emails by examining the sender's email address for inconsistencies or unfamiliar domains, checking for spelling and grammatical errors in the email content, verifying the legitimacy of links by hovering over them, and remember, you do not need to click on the link to be able to see the actual URL, you just need to hover over the link, and also avoiding providing personal or sensitive information via email without proper authentication protocols. Alright, so these would be some of the methods that we can identify a phishing email. The question number 2 is, what is wishing and how does it differ from traditional phishing attacks? Let's wait a few seconds for this one as well. And if you guessed properly that wishing is voice phishing, which involves attackers using phone calls or voice email messages to deceive individuals into divulging sensitive information or performing certain actions, you're 100% right. Now, unlike traditional phishing attacks that are conducted via email, phishing relies on voice communication in order to manipulate victims. And last question, which is going to be a scenario-based question, goes like this. During a phone call, the caller claims to be a technician from a well-known software company and insists there's a virus on your computer that they need to fix remotely. What precautions should you take to avoid falling victim to this phishing scam? Alright, so what precautions? Well, never allow remote access to your computer to someone who contacts you unexpectedly, especially if they claim to be tech support. Hang up the call and contact the software company's official support channels to inquire about the potential issues with your computer. Legitimate companies don't typically reach out to customers in this manner. Okay, if you answered these questions successfully, good job. You already have higher cybersecurity awareness than 90% of people. However, that is not enough. There are other things that you or your company can implement to further boost your cybersecurity knowledge and awareness. So let's take a look at what those things could be. We have things like interactive workshops. Conducting interactive workshops where participants learn about various social engineering techniques through real-world examples, case studies, and simulations. These workshops can cover topics such as phishing, wishing, pretexting, and tailgating. You can also perform role-playing exercises, engaging participants in role-playing exercises where they take on the role of both the attacker and the target. This allows them to experience firsthand how social engineers operate and helps them recognize red flags and respond appropriately in similar situations. We also have scenario-based training. This is presenting participants with hypothetical scenarios involving social engineering attacks and asking them to identify potential vulnerabilities, assess risks, and propose effective countermeasures. This encourages critical thinking and problem-solving skills in dealing with social engineering threats. You should also provide them with some security awareness material. It is good to provide educational materials such as articles, videos, books, or courses that highlight common social engineering tactics and best practices for mitigating risks. These materials should be easily accessible and regularly updated to reinforce learning and awareness. Now, one of the most common types of training, or scenario-based training, that you will encounter are phishing simulations. Conducting simulated phishing campaigns to test whether employees will fall to phishing attacks and to raise awareness about the importance of vigilance and skepticism when interacting with emails or messages. Feedback and training resources should be provided to individuals who fall for simulated phishing attempts. And let's also talk about policy and enforcement. Now, reviewing and reinforcing organizational policies and procedures related to information security, data protection, and access control is a crucial thing to do. Emphasize the importance of following the company's protocols for verifying identities, handling sensitive information, and reporting suspicious activities or incidents. And the last thing, but probably the most important one, is the continuous education and learning. Social engineering awareness training should be an ongoing process rather than a one-time event. You want to regularly refresh training materials, conduct refresher courses, and provide updates on emerging threats and best practices to ensure that employees remain informed over time. By implementing these comprehensive social engineering awareness training programs, organizations can empower employees to recognize and resist social engineering tactics, ultimately strengthening the overall security posture and reducing the risk of successful attacks. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lecture.